Okay, Scott, you are the epitome of you're not a doctor, but you play one on TV. This is your fourth time being a doctor. Like, can we just call you a doctor in real life now?
Let's just call me Dr. Wolf. I think that's fair. Yeah, I played four different doctors in a great way. It's been a different medical discipline every time, so it hasn't felt redundant. And I would say Dr. Richard Miller, the doctor I'm playing now, is my favorite of all of my television doctors.
Okay, well, tell me why. I think there's a lot of complexity to him, but tell me why he's your favorite.
Well, what you said is really probably the center of it, right? He's definitely the most complicated character. He might not just the most complicated doctor I've played, probably the most complicated character I've ever played. He inhabits the role of the villain, of the bad guy in season one of Doc, but he's very much a good human being. He's a good doctor. He's a good man. The episode that airs tonight is a huge reveal in terms of how he is gotten himself into the position he's in, where he's having to almost be the villain he never dreamed he'd have to be. And so yeah, while the medicine itself it's internal medicine, so it's these medical mysteries that all of these doctors have to work their way through and save people's lives who have these sort of disparate symptoms and nobody can figure out what's going on with them. And so the medicine is incredibly compelling, and it's like it's a mystery that the audience gets to solve with these doctors every week. But also because his journey is so complicated, his relationship with Amy, the central character, is so beautifully layered and complicated and tragic in some ways that this has been the most gratifying experience I've had as an actor, maybe ever. And I think playing characters that the audience doesn't know whether they want to hug you or slap you is really, really fun.
It's so funny to hear you talk about him as like the bad guy because he kind of plays that role, but he isn't really. Like, I think he's a good guy trying to do the right thing, but there's lines that get blurred, and I think he makes maybe some mistakes, which in a regular job, if I fumble over my words in my intro, it's like no big deal. But if you're a doctor and you make a mistake, there are things that happen. So it's hard for me to even like call him the bad guy because I don't get that vibe from him.
Yeah, I love you saying that because I feel like, look, from the minute was lucky enough to know I'd be playing this character, no bad guy sees themselves as a bad guy, but especially so in a case like this where, I mean, playing characters that an audience can fall into and sort of ask themselves, who would I be if I were this person? That's really the big idea of all of this storytelling, right? It's sort of to be companion to people's lives. So we want to entertain you. We want you to tune in and fall into a world and be like, whoa, that was exciting and fun and heartbreaking and all the things. But the next layer with a great show or a great film, but a show like Doc, is that people can really invest and see themselves in these characters. And so, Dr. Richard Miller is the best kind of bad guy, in my opinion, where he's not a bad person. He's not a bad guy or a villain. He's somebody who has made a terrible mistake. And we all make mistakes in our lives. And how we respond to them has so much to do with the impact it has on our lives. And so, yeah, in a way, it becomes a cautionary tale, but it becomes this kind of thing where, it challenges an audience in a great way, where you can't just check the box on him or any character in this piece. Even the central character, Dr. Larson, is a very flawed human being and does great things, does very difficult, challenging things that hurt people. And so, Doc is that kind of show where I think people can, find themselves in these characters and week by week, not only I think connect to what's happening and ask themselves who they'd be, but also in episodes like we're about to have, really have everything be upended. And so the things you think about characters are all subject to change based on this new information that you get.
I'm really excited to hear what we can learn more about your character, because as you said, we have learned about him, but we've learned way more about Dr. Larson and her personal life and the things that she's going through with her marriage, her child, a relationship she forgot she was in, things like that. So I'm looking forward to learning more about what made your character who he is. And when you think about it, he just got an opportunity and is happy to take advantage of the opportunity that's been presented in front of him. So I'm looking forward to learning more about him as a person and what you're going to reveal to us about.
Yeah, you really do get a bit of Dr. Richard Miller's origin story. And his origin story really is so connected with Amy. And so what you come to find out is that, things are so much even more complicated than they seem on the surface. And one of the messages I think, I hope what people sort of find themselves experiencing is one of the things I love most about this show, Doc, is look, it's entertaining. It's a hospital show. It's life and death, as you said earlier. It is solving medical mysteries. And it's a world that's going to touch everyone's lives at some point, for better or for worse. But it's also a story that's about second chances. And it's a story about, if you really knew everything there was to know, if you could really walk in people's shoes, I think we'd all have so much more compassion for each other and understanding. We'd be less judgmental. And so even the quote unquote bad guys or bad people in our lives, the villains, I think if we knew everything there was to know about them, we'd be a lot more compassionate and understanding. And so that's very much the case in a show like Doc. And I'm excited to see how the audience reacts to the turns in these characters in these stories.
What a message that we all need right now, especially, is that, compassion, always lead with that. And I have to say, you have been in this industry so long. When I think back to when you started in Party of Five and to see you now playing a doctor 4 times, you have withstood in this industry. What do you think has led to this longevity that you have had in this crazy industry?
I'm grateful to still be kicking around and being invited to tell wonderful stories. I keep showing up. I keep working hard. I still love what I do as much as I did on day one. And so, look, it is not the easiest line of work. And so much changes over time. The story, I can say that telling stories on television has always been something that I've really been grateful to be a part of. And there's been an evolution. The days of there being sort of a difference between the stories that people tell on film and people tell on television, all that's kind of gone. And the audience expects being told incredible stories with really, really challenging, compelling characters. And so, look, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful to have stuck around as long as I have, and to at this point be back on Fox after all these years, telling a story that's as compelling and that I'm as passionate about as I've ever been is really a gift. And so nobody promises you anything, day by day, year by year, in any walk of life, really. But I'm just so incredibly grateful to, at this point, to be telling a story with an amazing group of producers and actors that the audience is really loving is great at any stage. But knowing how hard it is to find an audience and to tell a story that matters to people and how important that is to us, it's a gift, and I'm so glad to be part of it.
Yeah, such a homecoming for you on Fox, which is really, really fun and crazy, kind of how this industry works in such crazy ways. Thank you so much for the time, Scott. I would love to know who your little assistant is behind you. I saw them get up and readjust themselves. Your 4-legged assistant.
I've got 2. There's Leo and Ginger, brother and sister here. Let me see if I can. Oh. There they. There they are. So they've been. Their calm sleep is really the force behind everything I'm able to do here.
Yeah, you work hard so that they can have a good life. I'm the same way. I have 4-legged children, and I'm just working to provide for them. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for noticing them, and I know that means a lot to them too.
Thank you so much, Scott. I'm really loving the show, and it's a pleasure to chat with you.
That's awesome. Thank you.